quick update on Terence. How's things going with him? He had his parade in Colorado. How was that?
Everything's going good. He just texted me. Yesterday and said that Spence activated his rematch. Is that Paulie Maldonado up there?
Paulie's here, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He just activated his rematch.
That's confirmed, is it?
Huh?
That's confirmed.
That's confirmed, but we don't have a date and stuff like that yet.
So do you expect that fight to happen before the end of the year?
I'm hoping.
Just lastly,
boom, and just like that, the rematch is on. Errol Spence activates his rematch clause. He wants it again with Terence Bud Crawford. That's what I'm gonna talk about in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. You guys heard the clip at the beginning. Brian McIntyre, the trainer of Terence Crawford. He's currently in the UK. He's now working with Chris Eubank Jr., who has a fight this weekend. And he said he got a call or a text from Terence Crawford yesterday stating that Errol Spence had actually triggered the rematch clause. As you guys know, when it comes to rematch clause, there's different contracts, but ultimately, usually, if there is a rematch clause in place, the fighter has up to a certain time to trigger that rematch clause and activate it. If not, then the time runs out. For example, an example of a rematch clause being triggered would be Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz. He went to New York, fought Andy Ruiz, got upset in New York by Andy Ruiz, but because his team had a rematch clause, they were able to run it back in Saudi Arabia, where he collected his belts back. Another example of a rematch clause expiring would be Canelo Alvarez Payday versus Dimitri Bivol. And you had Canelo, who got whooped by Dimitri Bivol and seemingly didn't want any parts because he did have a rematch clause to fight Bivol, but he didn't want no parts of that. So he let the rematch clause expire and end up fighting a 41-year-old Gennady.
Hell no, guys. Hey, Mox's big dramas, punches, nothing.
Rather than run it back with Dimitri Bivol, the guy that beat him. He'd rather fight Triple G, a guy he beat in the second fight many years before when he was at least a little bit younger. So Errol Spence, love him or hate him, this is not even about if you give him a chance in the rematch or not. He is as advertised. He never quit, even though he was getting pretty well demolished by Terence Crawford. Crawford had a great game plan and everything seemingly worked. That night, Errol Spence had the flattest performance I've ever seen from him. He looked off. It looked like some things didn't go well. And he ended up losing to Terence Crawford. For the belts that he collected, 3 belts, Crawford had 1. Now Crawford has all belts in the welterweight division. But I got to give Errol Spence a lot of credit because this is definitely a true stubborn fighter and a fighter going against the grain, because many people said, oh, I don't need a rematch, and a rematch is not needed because we got a conclusive effort in the first fight, Spence Crawford. But Errol Spence is clearly defiant. He's going against, I guess what you could say, conventional wisdom or popular opinion, because some people say, hey, stay away, take some tune-ups, don't do it. Errol Spence he had a time limit on the rematch clause. And from what Bomac is saying, he's expressed his interest in wanting a rematch. Now, the interesting thing here is with this rematch, they're saying that the winner, before we had a winner for Spence Crawford, they said the winner of this particular fight, the winner will have the power to dictate what weight class the fight happens at. So if that's the case, we now know the winner is Terence Crawford. So Crawford can choose 147 or do the fight at 154, or I guess anywhere in between there, presumably like some kind of catch weight if he wanted to, because he was the winner. And I think he'll get the lion's share of the money because he is the undisputed champion. Now Errol Spence has no belts. So that's interesting. To be honest, it looked like both fighters struggled to make the weight of 147 pounds. I made several videos talking about it. Crawford's face looked gaunt. I had never seen Crawford look like sucked up like that on a fight week where he looked ghastly. But the difference is I underestimated Errol Spence, and because he hired a nutritionist and it looked like he was, he looked to be ripped and in shape. You didn't know how his body was feeling. And it looks, in hindsight, now that we have a conclusive decision and effort and who won and whatnot, it looks to me that Errol Spence was spent, I should say Errol spent, because it looked like he left everything at the gym and put up really a completely flat performance. And I know some people might not understand what I'm talking about. That's all right. I don't really care. But at the end of the day, I've seen matches that are stylistic mismatches where someone just has superior speed and athleticism. That's not what this fight looked like. People were saying this fight was going to be Hagler-Hearns. And then when the fight happened, it looked like a one-sided beatdown, as if they were never on the same spectrum. Even Crawford's team says stuff like post-fight, they thought the fight was going to be a bit tougher. So I don't really know anyone who envisioned or predicted the fight to be that one-sided. Even if Crawford was to win, I think people expected a little bit more. So whatever was going on, and that could be credit to Errol Spence, because if something really did go wrong in training camp, which some people suggest based on given the flat performance from Errol Spence, that might be a reason why he feels confident, I could do 1,000 times better than I did in the first fight. So that's just the theory, that they know something that happened in the training camp and they feel they can correct that and put up a better effort. So a better effort doesn't necessarily mean a win. I think, and I'm going to stand on this, I really think Errol Spence put himself in between a rock and a hard spot, just how he went about it. He said to the world that it's strap season and Mr. No Tune-Ups and these types of things. And then at the end of the day, he negotiated himself out of his leverage. He gave up a lot. He didn't do a tune-up. His team said to walk away from Crawford because he's demanding too much. And he stubbornly stuck to what he believed in. And now he's doing the same thing. I don't know as far as his team, what they're suggesting, but a lot of people, I know he has to hear the voices and things like that. So if he has activated the rematch clause, most people that watched the fight said, don't bother. Why bother? We already know what's going to happen. Even Terence Crawford's team, they're saying the same thing. They're like, it's going to be the same thing no matter what the weight class is. Terence Crawford is just the better fighter. He's the more prepared fighter. He's the more skillful fighter. He has more tools in his toolkit. And Errol Spence believes otherwise. So it looks like we're going to run this fight back. It is what it is. That's the point of a rematch clause. If a guy is a champion and they extended the olive branch and an opportunity to his opponent to make a fight, and then he loses the fight, then he technically gets an opportunity to run that back. And that's what Errol Spence is getting. So we have to just endure it and we have to respect it. Despite if you think Errol Spence can win or not, contractually, he's obligated to take the match. And that's Terence Crawford. And Crawford said this in post-fight interviews. He did a couple interviews and he says, I'll have to honor the fight with Errol Spence. Lastly, from me, Ego Stradamus strikes again. This is exactly why I told you, for me, I wasn't going to overly get excited or talk about a fight with Terence Crawford versus Canelo, or a fight with Terence Crawford and Jermell Charlo. Not only does Canelo and Charlo have a fight pretty much this month, September 30th, and it's August 31st, right? So in the next 30 days or so, they have a fight. But in addition to that, now Errol Spence has triggered his rematch clause according to Team Crawford. So it is what it is. There's no need to talk about Canelo and Crawford. He has to handle business again versus Errol Spence. And this is what I said. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Best in the business. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC, Bluetooth ready, with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description, customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.